I'm Stewart Bloor. Welcome to episode 5. You can't have too much of a good thing, and as far as fishing in general is concerned, and perch in particular, that is absolutely true. They're my favourite species. Anyway, less of the chat, let's get down bankside. I've got fish to catch this week.
Always wanting to make the most of every opportunity. I've got an hour free this morning. I'm going to go spinning on the canal. My rod's already made up. I've got a Mepps Aglia size 1 silver spoon, so that's a tiny little spinner. Now we've had some heavy rain overnight, exceptionally heavy rain, and the canal has had a lot of running off the local fields, so it's a horrible brown murky colour. Now I think that will affect the fish. It will certainly affect the visibility, and spinning after all is a way of fishing that presents a visible bait in front of the perch. So I'm not so sure about this spinner, but what I'm going to do, I'm fishing a short pound, half an hour one way, half an hour back, and for the first few casts at least, maybe 10-20 minutes, I'm going to stick with that spinner, but I've got plan B in mind. What a fish, fantastic. So if plan A doesn't work out, plan B most definitely did. What a fantastic fish. I've packed away again now, as you can see, made the rods up, and that was the alternative, a size 5 Ondex Classic. As you can see, compared to a Mepps Aglia size 1 silver spoon, quite bright and big and gaudy in some ways, but I'll tell you something, it worked. And I was thinking, with the canal being the clarity that it was, very difficult fishing to get the perch to even maybe take an interest in that tiny little lure, assuming of course that it saw it in the first place. But something like this definitely made the difference, and that's what we have to do in our fishing, isn't it? We have to think it through, we have to be prepared to change. Don't have your favourite spinner that worked last week, it might not work this time round. Always be thinking your session through, and as I proved this morning, when you do, it definitely works. I'm a happy camper. I actually had less than an hour, but you know what? Less than an hour fishing means you've got a chance.
A good question there for Mike. As far as I'm concerned though, the size of the line isn't really an issue. On my spinning rod at the moment, I've got 8 pound mono. I'm fishing the canal. There are pike in there, very few and far between on the stretches that I'm on. I can't remember the last time I caught one, but when I do, they're usually very small. If you use braid, as I do also, then you can go to 20 pound braid, and it's still very fine in diameter. So as far as I'm concerned, the line strength isn't the issue when I'm going after perch. Regarding the size of the spinner, I've got everything from size 1 right the way through to size 5. What I tend to do though is I tend to go with size 3. It's small enough to get some of the tiny perch, because when you're spinning you want to catch, don't you? But at the same time it's also big enough to tempt some of those old girls that are lying there, maybe under a overhanging tree, on the bottom or wherever it might be. They see that big meal going past and they want some of the action. I tend to use a size 1 on smaller venues when it's more intimate, because there's more time when you cast out bringing it in. A size 5, it's bigger, it's heavier. You might need that on a venue, for example, it's got more water in it, it's got more depth in it. You need to cast out further perhaps. So a size 5 is ideal there. Of course, cast a size 1, let it sink a little bit further, so that isn't really an issue there. For me, I tend to go more with the type of spinner rather than the size. So the size itself isn't the main issue. I'm tending to think, okay, I've had a Mepsaglia and I've spent 20 minutes, I haven't had a fish yet. I'll tell you what, I'll switch to a Meps Comet or something else. That's probably the way that I go with it. It's very difficult to go to water and think beforehand, this is the spinner that will work today. You can have an idea, water clarity, previous experience, that sort of thing, but like all types of fishing, it's not scientific. It's often change the spinner, put another one on, try this one worked before, it's not working today. That one has never worked on here, I'll put it on today, and you know what, I've caught a £2 perch. So that's probably my thoughts on excuse me, on the size of the spinner. Size 3, that's a good general all-round size to go for. I'm off for an hour spinning, and as you can see from the state of my car, it's not only an angler's car on the inside but also on the outside as well. I think it's an important principle in life to know when to let something go. And I'm talking about negative stuff now. When something that was maybe positive once starts to become negative in our lives, it's time to draw a line under it and let it go. Deal with it, of course, but let things go. A lot of people won't do that. They hang on to something. It might be arguments, it might be disputes that start off, let's talk fishing. Starts off about what size up to use for chub, and it ends up in a threat of violence, and we'll meet up one day and all that sort of stuff. You see it, don't you, on the internet, you see it on forums. One of the reasons why I don't go on forums, I'm not really interested in that sort of stuff. I'm certainly not interested in getting involved, but I'm definitely not interested in reading about it either, what other people get up to. We have to let things go. People upset us all the while. All of us. It might be on a regular basis if you're at work or in a situation where someone is quite antagonistic, someone rubs you up the wrong way. The reply, the response is to just let it go. Don't entertain those things. The moment we open the door, we let something in that might be small at the moment, but that tiny thing that we let in, we'll feed it with our bad attitude, we'll feed it with our response, and before we know it, that tiny little creature that we've let in the door, it will become a monster and it'll take over us, and it'll be too late to let things go. Keep a clean sheet, keep things nice and tight, nice and tidy, deal with them, draw a line under them and let them go. I'm having me a short 3-hour session on the canal this afternoon. You heard the plop, the rod's out, the bait's out there. Let's get some fish on the bank. I've got lots of little roach out there. I'm fishing with a size 10 hook and a worm. I'm not going to catch too many, that's okay. I'll keep feeding them, I'll keep getting the plucks until the perch moves in. That's the plan anyway. You have to have a plan, don't you, when you go fishing? Well, I didn't have long to wait. It's not a particularly big fish, but the way the tip pulled round, I thought I got a barbel on. Not that I did, of course, this is the canal, but you know what I'm saying. It was a lively bite, let's put it that way. I'm fishing with brown crumb as an attractor, and to that I'm adding some shrimp based ground bait. That'll give it a little bit of colour and also added flavour as well. I'm making my ground bait quite sloppy so that it creates a cloud in the water. I'm not bothered about those roach. In fact, I quite prefer them to come in because the feeding roach will give the perch and the bigger fish confidence to then follow suit. I'm fishing with red maggots as a further attractor, putting those out by hand as and when needed. Don't put too much out because once you've got bait out there you can't get it back. I want to keep the fish feeding, I want to keep them competitive, so I try to work out, if I've got 20 roach out there, I'll put 10 maggots out every time just to keep them
edging one another out for the bait. That will create an interest, of course. The competitive nature of the perch will kick in. And as I've said, I'm fishing worm on a size 10 hook. That's the real attractor, isn't it? That's the one that I'm using to tempt the big perch that I know reside in this stretch. Whether I catch them or not, well, who knows? But do you know what? I'll have fun along the way, and that's what angling's about. The tiniest of bites, just little movements on the tip, but I know what to expect. I knew what it was. It wasn't the lightning strike of the roach, it was a perch. Not a fantastic fish in terms of size, but I'll tell you something, as far as I'm concerned, they're all beautiful. It's late dusk, as you can see from the screen. It's also very cold as well. I'm continuing to fish though, in the hope that I catch either a very late perch or a rough. It's been a slow day today. I have caught perch, so it's been successful in that sense. I haven't blanked. Water temperature is rock bottom, but do you know what? As I always say, as long as your bait's in the water, you've got a chance, haven't you? And I've certainly got more chance continuing to fish into dark than someone who's sitting at home by the fire, and that's a fact. I'm back home in my tackle room. No rough, no perch, but I did catch a small chub. Anyway, the weather forecast tomorrow is not only cold, but very wet and very windy. Never mind, I'll still be out there, bankside. See you then. Back on the canal at first light. It's quite good because the weather forecast of very strong winds and torrential rain, that's been slightly adjusted, so it comes in about lunchtime. Suits me perfectly, although it's still quite breezy at times this morning, with just 2 or 3 hour session on the menu. Get down here at first light. Fantastic. The rod's out now. I'm hoping to bank me a perch or two. I've had a little tap and I've got another one. I'm actually fishing 2 spots, or a baited of 2 spots. One out into open water beyond the overflow, and the other one right by the lock. And it's the latter that I've got this particular tap on, and this looks like it's developing into a bite. So any moment now I'm about to strike. It's just gone quiet, but the next sign of action I'm going to strike into it. In the meantime, I'll keep talking. Well, I could have carried on talking forever, because not only did that bite not develop, but I had nothing else at all during the session. Anyway, time to go home, and talking of a different kind, I've got to put together the weekly podcast for the New Saints FC. Thank you for listening to our weekly podcast. You can find out all things parkour related on our website at tnsfc.co.uk. And finally, TNS Radio will be back on air this coming Saturday when we travel to Flintshire for the final game of Phase 1, taking on Gap Connors Quay. We will be live on air from 5 p.m. with commentary, chat and banter. The link is on the club website, and we look forward to your company. I shared in a recent episode a trip down memory lane with Hursthill Labour Club. Well, that angling club moved to another Labour club, Bilston Labour Club, and in 1980-81 I actually won this trophy, and as you can see there, I was the individual knockout winner. So I was 18/19 at that particular time, and I must be honest, I can't remember what I did in terms of actual venues to win this, other than the fact that I was the individual knockout winner over the course of the season. But it's up there
on my shelf with the rest of my angling trophies from that time. Back in the day when I did some match fishing, of course, match fishing has changed very, very much over the years. These were the days before the commercial. So you booked the sort of venues that I fish now, like rivers and pools, not dugout ones, but pools that are more natural, if you like. And I've got some great memories, even if I can't remember what I actually did to win trophies like this.
My final session of the week, I've just arrived at the pool and we've had torrential rain. And you know what? It's gone from being nice and clear and perfect for targeting perch to the colour of chocolate. If you've ever fished the River Team when it's in flood, that's exactly the colour that this pool is now. But you know what? I'm here, I've got some bait, I'm going to put it in the water, and that means I've at least got a chance. I've got more chance than if I wasn't here, and that's another fact. I've been here about an hour, no sign of life at all, and then suddenly the float dipped and came back up. Well, that certainly brought me to life. I knew it was going to be a difficult session as soon as I saw the colour of the water, but there's at least one fish out there that's took some sort of interest in my bait, and that's an encouragement. At least I'm not a blanker. The target species move in. What a tiny little fish. But it's a perch. It's what I came for. I've been catching small roach and perch, nothing big, but I was about to use the landing net for the first time then. I had something half decent on. I didn't get to see it. I've got a feeling it was a perch though, so that's encouraging. But unfortunately, I had a hook pull. Never mind, I've recast, and who knows, might be another one out there. This one is a little bit bigger, as in maybe 1 ounce. I've got 11 feet of water in front of me, less than a rod's length from the bank, so good depth there, of course. I'm bulking my shot towards the bottom so that I'm getting the bait on the deck quite quickly. I'm also putting ground bait out, very, very firm, not sloppy. I don't want to create a cloud. It's very firm ground bait. I'm poking a hole in the ball, putting maggots in, closing it back up again, getting it out there. So in other words, the bait's getting there on the deck as quickly as possible. And this one took the bait and it didn't even move. The float just slightly twitched. And I waited about a minute, decided to pull it in, and I'd caught this. The water temperature is quite cold, so there's not a lot of action out there, but I'm happy to catch this one. And the worm, actually, is still there in his mouth, even though I've took the hook out. It's starting to rain now. In fact, it's due to get quite heavy later on. But I'm in the last half hour. I won't bother putting the brolly up. I'll just sit here and enjoy the conditions, because it's actually quite a pleasant afternoon. It's fairly chilly, quite cold, but when you're wrapped up warm, it's quite nice. No wind at all. That makes it even better, doesn't it? But watching my float, and who knows, I'm one tremor, one tremble, one dip, one strike away from a 2-pound perch. I might not get that fish, but that's the great anticipation of angling, isn't it? You never know what's around the corner, but as long as I'm watching that float, I've got a chance. I'm ready to pack away now. I've certainly enjoyed today. Even though I haven't caught anything big, I haven't needed the landing net. I have actually caught, so that's something in these conditions. Got quite a big corvid roost in the wood next to me. Thousands of birds, not just hundreds, thousands of birds. They've been coming in flocks of 200, 300, 400 at a time, and I love fishing next to those places, and they'll go all through the night. All it takes is for one bird to get a little bit flighty and it'll start all the others off. Pheasants are the same. I've been in the Severn Valley and one bird, one pheasant has started. Something's happened, the one pheasant has made a noise, and then you hear the birds all the way down the valley. It's like an echo. They'll all carry on making noise for the next 5 or so minutes. Anyway, less of the birds, less of the fishing. I'm going home, and as I say, I've enjoyed today, and that is what angling is all about.
I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, I've enjoyed putting them together. Not only the bankside activity, but also here at home. And as you can see, a usual departure from my tackle room chat that I normally do. This time I'm in the living room, and behind me there on the wall is a signed shirt from Cortes Bell, a Welsh footballing legend. That's up there on the wall, and this side, the signed one, that's the New Saints team from the first season that I was involved with the club. They actually won the treble, so I got a signed shirt from all the players, and that one's framed. Anyway, I'll be back next week. If you've enjoyed the video, why not share it on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, etc. And as always, I run a small charity based in Africa, and the ads here on the videos, they're monetized of course, and the money that comes in from people watching the ads goes directly into the charity. So you can watch my videos and support a good cause at the same time. Out and about yourself, tight lines.